This is your boy Chino with Chino University. In this video, we're going to react to a broker who reveals his rates. As a carrier, I want to know what their rates are because I feel like I'm getting ripped off because the rates are so low. So he reveals it. The video is a little older, but it gives you an idea of what they get and what the breakdown is. So without further delay, let's get into the video. So before I start this video, let me just say this broker's name is Brandon Scott. I really like him. I've been watching his videos for a while. I've learned a lot from him about the game. I'm not trying to be a freight broker. I'm just trying to get some insight as to how I can get better rates as a carrier. So let's go ahead and start this video.
All right, so what we're all trying to achieve, what every freight broker, whether he's a new freight broker or a seasoned freight broker, what he wants to have plenty of is opportunities to move freight. Now, when he gets these opportunities to move freight, they come through a shipper sending an email, or shooting a phone call over and asking for a rate, asking for a quote or a bid on a specific lane. And that's the moment. That's what we're all waiting for. But when you get that moment, do you know how to capitalize on that moment? Do you know what to do when a shipper asks for a rate? A lot of times we don't. What about you? For the last week, I've been talking to you about the possibility of sharing some of my freight rates with you within specific lanes that shippers are paying me. And the reason why I wanted to do this is because it's an area that I struggled mightily in when I first started. Because it's really difficult to try to figure out what is going to work as a rate for you, the shipper, and the carrier.
He said you want to get a good rate for you, the shipper, and the carrier. So that's what I'm interested in, is getting myself a good rate, but I want to find out how they're getting their rates, how much they're making, so I can make a better informed decision on getting a good rate when I'm negotiating with them. Let's go.
Three parties involved. Three parties have to win in order for this transaction to be successful. And that's your job as a freight broker, to figure out what the price is, how to make it work. So that can be a bit of a challenge when you first get started. So to gauge that even better, I didn't want to just go on what I thought to say, hey, I think this is a really big problem that most freight brokers have, so I'm going to provide some content on it. I wanted to come to you and ask you. So we decided to do a little bit of a survey, and we said that if we got 100 comments on a video that we did last week saying, yes, rates are something that you would want to see, then we would make a video on it and show you some of the rates in specific lanes that shippers are paying us. So today is that video. So now what do you get in today's video? Well, number one, you get what you asked for. I'm going to show you the rates that we're being paid throughout the United States in different regions. That way it'll give you some idea of where you might want to start when you start forming your rate. And then I'm going to go into some of those tough lanes, challenging lanes that some of you are already working and you don't know where to start at. You don't know how to start forming a rate in these lanes. They're called multi-pick, multi-drop lanes. And if you have a regular load board, you're probably not able to go in and chain link those lanes to get a multi-pick, multi-drop rate. Meaning you can't say I'm starting here and then I want to go here, here, and here to get a rate. So I'm going to show you the rates that we're being paid in some of those multi-drops to give you some idea where you might want to start. And then I'm going to show you on some of the lanes that we have tenders for, I'm going to show you the line haul rate, and then I'm going to show you the fuel surcharge and the total rate. That way you can get a very good picture of what the total rate looks like and the breakdown of how it works. So we have an outstanding video lined up for you today. I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this video. Now let's get into the business. Freight broker rates is a very sensitive topic. Truckers want to know what freight brokers are being paid by shippers in lanes. Other freight brokers want to know what freight brokers are being paid. It's a competitive space. Those freight rates are highly sensitive. So with that said, I want you to know I'm sharing this video with you today because I want you to be able to see it from a different perspective. I want you to be able to see what shippers are paying in lanes so that you can learn from that and to be able to form your own rates without having such a challenge. But at the same time, I want you to know that I'm not for certain how long we're going to air this video because of the sensitivity of this particular topic. So go ahead and take advantage of it now. And that way you don't have to worry about whether it's going to be there tomorrow or the next day. Go ahead and get on top of it now so that you have an understanding of it. You can see it. You might want to take some notes, and then you can start to apply it in your business. So without further ado, let's hop right over to my computer, and we're going to get knee deep into these rates.
Okay, so first out of the gate, we're going to take a look at some lanes that are under $1,000. This is a flatbed lane. This is 2 oil tanks that we're picking up out of Sumter, South Carolina, and it's going into Monroe, North Carolina. It's a total of 93 miles. And as you can see here, we're doing this lane for a total line haul rate of $8.43 a mile, plus a 22-cent fuel surcharge on 93 miles, which gives us a total charge of $805.
Okay, let's stop right there. If you guys don't already know, every load that a broker gets from a shipper has a fuel surcharge. They always give a fuel surcharge as far as I know. And that's shown here on this rate con. This one happens to be 22 cents a mile. So every Monday, the fuel surcharge is on a website. I can't remember. The EPA sets that rate. The problem is, as a carrier, we don't never see that fuel surcharge on our rate con. At least I don't. I've seen it once or twice, but most of these brokers give you an all-in rate. I asked one guy to break it down on the rate con, and he said, "Oh, you want to break it down?" And I said, "Yeah," but he never broke it down on the rate con. He told me verbally what the fuel surcharge is, but that fuel surcharge is meant for us, the carrier, not the broker, because we're the one that's burning the fuel. But sad to say, I don't believe that they give us, I mean, we don't know if they give the fuel surcharge because we don't ever see the breakdown. But that 22 cents a mile should be for the carrier only. So if you look at this rate is, he's getting $8.43 a mile plus 22 cents. So we're talking about $8.65 a mile that we're dealing with. Now, we're going to see what I think he reveals how much he paid a carrier for it, but the carrier should be getting the lion's share. Please comment and let me know what you think a carrier should get for this load. If he's getting $805, how much should a carrier make for 93 miles? Because 93 miles is a short distance. Of course, the rate per mile is going to be more, but let's continue on.
And then it says carrier is not responsible for pallet exchange, so we don't have to worry about the carrier having to pick up any pallets. And then it says send in a copy of this confirmation with a freight bill. We always have to have this with this particular shipper. We have to have a tender. But this outlines exactly what is being paid for the load. Now, when you see this load and you see 100 miles or 93 miles, you might think to yourself that, hey, I don't need to do a load like that. I don't want to spend my time on a load that's less than $1,000. But you would be sadly mistaken. You would be making a mistake to skip over these kind of loads, because when you're moving these kind of loads, you can make considerable profits on smaller amounts very, very easily. So
now I have to agree with him on that. Short distance loads, you got to look at the cost, the rate per mile. So if you can get this load for, what did I say, $8.65 a mile with the fuel surcharge, if you can get $7 a mile for this lane, $7.50, you'll be doing good. Now, I don't believe that the load was dispatched for that much, but you got to look at the rate per mile. Even though it's only $800, that's quick money. Get in and get out and get on to the next load. Let's continue.
I very much like moving loads that are under $1,000. This load is $805, and what I wanted to also emphasize on this is that this totally blows this out of the window, this idea that you can just say, let's do $2 a mile, because there's no way that you can do $2 a mile on this load and make it work. So we don't want to always have in our thinking that $2 a mile is going to save us, because most times $2 a mile does not work. I'm going to show you that throughout the presentation outside of this $2 per mile number. So we want to make sure that we are not just using that number as a standard to say, hey, I'm going to go in and give it $2 a mile and I'll be able to move the load. Because oftentimes, more often than not, you won't be able to move the load based off of $2 per mile. All right, so we're going to color a little bit outside of the lines here. We're not going to go with all of the loads that are less than $1,000 since we have this one here. This is a multi-drop load. So we're going to go into this and show you what the real deal is on these multi-drops. Now, a lot of times we have some challenges with multi-drops because we don't know how to get a rate from point A to point B, then from that point to the next point, from that point to the next point. We're thinking that we can go on the load board and put those destinations in and it'll come up with a price. But once you get multi-drops, you'll see that that is not going to be possible. You're not going to be able to put those in on most of your load boards. So you're going to have to come up with a way to get a price on these lanes. I have my own way of doing it. I come up with what I can get that lane done for. Of course, using that entire lane as a whole, not just from point A to point B. I do look at it from each point to each destination, but I also look at it from a total standpoint, how much time it's going to take. But with that said, we're going to take a look at this multi-drop lane and see what the shippers are paying us on this type of lane. It's a 1-pick, 6-drop lane. So for every drop after the first drop, we are going to charge what is called a drop fee. And as you can see here, there's a total of $375 in extra drop fees. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to the top. We have a total miles of 1,583 miles. The line haul rate is going to be going at a total of $1 and I believe that is 86 cents if my glasses are serving me correctly there. And it's a fuel surcharge of 26 cents. That extra drops charge, like I said earlier, is a total of $375. So that gives a total charge of $3,746.09 for this particular lane.
Now let's stop right there. That $1.86 a mile for the line rate is crazy. So you guys may not have realized, but the brokers, when they get their rates, it's also based per mile. $1.86 per mile for the line haul is not good. Now, if you notice too, it has 6 drops and the extra drops are $375 additional, which is equals $75 a drop. So if you guys do multiple stop loads, which I do them all the time, you guys, the standard going rate is $50 per stop. Now you can get more, but of course the broker's not going to want to give you all of that stop money, which he should, but he should definitely give you all of the fuel surcharge, which I think he said was 26 cents. But that $1.86 a mile is that he's getting is not good. So I fault him for taking this load because we're not even at $2 a mile. And I know it's a lot of miles, but the thing is, he knows that some carrier is going to take it for whatever reason, and we'll discuss that reason later. Let's keep going.
So now these types of lane require a little bit more work. For each destination I'm going to, I have to call that destination and set up an appointment in order to be able to drop that load off. And it can be a headache sometimes. You got to be making sure that you're getting there at a certain time. So when you get there, you're not having your driver lay over for long periods of time. We want to get there and drop off. That can be a challenge sometimes. So we have to go in and set those appointments so that they, kind of meet this carrier schedule. We want to stay on schedule and move through each of these drops without having any hiccups.
Now let's just, getting through a load without a hiccup, that's a joke. I mean, we go through a lot of stuff on this road, traffic, accidents. And just so you guys know, most of those drops are windows. Most of the time, whatever the store is open from 8 to 4 or whatever, setting appointment times for a multi-pick is a joke. A lot of times the brokers are the ones that set the appointments. And I know that because when you get to the shipper, you ask them, I ask them, do they go by appointments? And they say no. So these brokers, they try to keep control of the load, but really those appointments are a joke. Let's continue.
Time a hiccup can cost you and throw you back a whole day, 2 days sometimes. So we don't want to have any hiccups. We want to stay on course. Go ahead and get downloaded. Now, next up is a dry van load. I really like dry van loads because they are relatively easy. Truck drivers like these type of loads because this is a single pick, single drop, and after we drop, we get paid. Just make sure the paperwork is all right. Now, what we want to check out here is what is it that we're doing? Well, we're going to be picking up a dry van load. The commodity is batters and breaders. It's a total of 39,700 pounds, and we're going to pick it up in Evansville, Indiana. And we are taking this particular load to Nampa, Idaho. Now, this is about 1,803 miles. So automatically, if we're moving a load and it's 1,500 miles, we know that it's going to take at least 3 days. So we'll factor that into the pricing of this particular load. But let's take a look down here at what we're going to be getting paid on this load. It's $2.16 per mile for the line haul rate, another 25 cents for the fuel surcharge, and that is going to equal to $4,350 when it comes to a total all-in rate for this load. Truck drivers like these type of loads because they're easy. It's just a pick up and drop off, and now it's time to get paid. So we, of course, like these loads as well. So now I would definitely suggest taking a look at some dry van loads. These are the type of loads that are usually straightforward without a whole lot of twists and turns. Next up is my bread and butter lane. This is my baby, I call it, because this is the first lane that I ever received a contract in. Meaning we didn't have to kind of compete for these lanes every week. After we were in contract, then we were automatically sent to tenders on these lanes. So this one is my baby. I love this lane, done a whole lot of work in it. So it's grown to be very near and dear to me. Now, we're going to pick this load. This load is a refrigerated load. We're going to pick this load up in Marshville, North Carolina, and we take it to College Park, Georgia. Now, it's a total of about 290 miles, as you can see here. We have a total line haul rate of $3.75 per mile, and we have a fuel surcharge of 38 cents per mile. And then we have some extra drops, or no, we don't have any extra drops here. It's just a single pick, single drop. This is a refrigerated load, and we're doing it for $1,200.
Okay, let's stop right there. Now, if we go back, he talks of that load was 38 cents for the fuel surcharge. When you're running reefer, as you know, you got to run a reefer unit and the truck. That whole 38 cents should be going to the carrier. And the line haul is $3.75. So that's a pretty good rate. So we're talking about combined rate of $4.13 a mile. So in my opinion, the carrier should get at least $3.50 a mile for that load, if not more. So the problem again is these brokers are not giving us the fuel surcharge, and we would never know because we don't know what the fuel surcharge is because we can't see their rate con. But we know that the fuel surcharge exists, so when you're negotiating the rate, you should go ahead and get that money. Try to get as much as you can. Let's continue.
All right, so up next is a load that you're probably going to get a little hot under the collar about, especially if you're a truck driver and you don't understand my network and how we work. You're going to be a little bit hot under the collar about this one, especially when you come down here and you see what the rate is on this load. But let's take a look at it. We're going out west this time. We're picking this load up in California, I believe, Riverbank, California. It's a load of cheese, about 15,000 pounds, and it has about 12 spots. It is going to be a total line haul rate of, guess what? Just 95 cents. A line haul rate of 95 cents. Can you believe that? And then it has a fuel surcharge of 24 cents. And then it's about 2,674 miles. Now, as you can see, we're only charging $3,200 for this particular load. Now, why are we charging such a low amount on this load? Well, because I had already talked with a carrier. A carrier had called me up and told me that he was going to be in California area on a particular date. So what I did was I called up the shipper and asked, hey, do we have any freight that we need to move back from California on these days or around these days? We're going to have some trucks in there that are going to be looking for backhaul. So we're going to be able to get these done for a relatively cheap amount. So let me know what you got and we'll go ahead and get you some trucks underneath it. So he sent out several loads to me, and this was one of the loads that we were able to go to a carrier for just $2,700. So although this load is less than 95 cents on a line haul rate, we're still making about $400 to $500 on this load. And the trucker is getting $2,700. Now, what you don't know is what he went out to California at, the amount that he went out there on that load, and that would be the reason why he would want to settle for a load that's just $2,700, less than $1 a mile going back, or about $1 a mile going.
Okay, let's address that. This is the problem with the industry. Carriers, just because they're getting good money going to California or wherever this load is going, doesn't mean that your backhaul should be nothing. 95 cents for the line haul is ridiculous. This broker shouldn't be accepting this load at that rate. And of course, the shipper is happy. They're like, oh my goodness, we're saving a lot of money and making a lot of money because their shipping is nothing. 95 cents should not even be in the language. It should not be a rate at all on the load board anyway. We shouldn't even be talking about 95%, especially when you talk about long distance. Nobody can operate their truck at 95 cents a mile. No one. I don't care if you have no expenses. I don't care if all your equipment is paid off. You still have insurance. You still have fuel. That's going to be more than 95 cents. If somebody can run a tractor trailer for less than 95 cents a mile, please comment and let me know if you can, because I would love to know. What, are you getting your fuel for free? I mean, come on, let's be realistic. But it doesn't matter how much you make in your front load. You should be making some money on your back load too. You don't have to make a killing on the back load, but you should be able to cover your fuel going back and also make some money. But that's the problem. Carriers are just settling. He just said it, settling. It's just aggravating. I'm sorry. Let's move on.
Back. So you have to know your network. You have to know what it is that you can do, what you can't do. That's why it's important to understand that what one freight broker can get a load moved at could be totally different than another freight broker. So you can't necessarily just use the rates that I'm giving you, but it gives you a starting place for establishing rates. But when it comes down to these type of rates, it's basically going to be what you can get that load moved for. Because unfortunately, in the rate game, there's not a set formula that says X plus Y equals Z. You know, X plus Y equal the rate. Not in this game. We have to come up with what we can actually get the load moved for. And in this particular case, it was $3,200 that we could get this load moved for and make a profit. So of course, we went for it. Now this load is a multi-pick load. That means that we're going to pick up 2 times here and then we'll drop off once because we have 2 picks and 1 drop. This is a frozen load. Our first pick is going to be in Germantown, Wisconsin, and then our second pick is going to be in Evansville, Indiana. Now, what we have here is a total of 13 spots on the pickup that's picking up in Evansville, Indiana, and then we have a total pallets of 3 spots, the one that's picking up in Germantown. And then we're going to mosey on down to Monroe, North Carolina, and we're going to drop this load off. Now, what we have to take a look here is at the total line haul rate. We have a total line haul rate of $3.02. We have a fuel surcharge of 25 cents on a total of 1,023 miles. And usually what we charge is $75 for any pick after the first pick. But what happened in this situation is the shipper threw that second pick on us at the last minute. So we charged $75 for the first pick and $75 for the second pick to make that $150 on the picks, for a total of $3,500 for our all-in rate. All right, so now this will be the last load that we share with you. It's taking a little bit more time than we anticipated, but this.
That was another multi-pick. You see what the trend is. They're generally getting 75 cents per drop. So just keep that in mind, because you can negotiate to get all that $75. I said 75 cents. You should be able to negotiate to get that whole $75, the whole fuel surcharge. You kind of know what the fuel surcharge is, even though it changes, it fluctuates. We should get all of the fuel surcharge. Of course, they're not going to be able to tell us. We don't know if they're telling the truth or not, but just keep that in mind.
Is a frozen load that's picking up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It is frozen cheese, and it's going to be delivered in Monroe, North Carolina. If you take a look down here, it is a total of 985 miles. We have a total rate, line haul rate of $3.42 plus a 23-cent fuel surcharge to equal our $3,600 rate. Now this is a wintertime rate. We move this load over the wintertime, but this $3,600 changes usually in the summertime to about $2,400, $2,500. Sometimes you're going to get it done at $2,700. Just depends on what's happening as far as trucks, the capacity in that particular lane. But this is a great lane. We love this lane, always want to move it. And if you have some trucks and you're in these lanes, you definitely want to give us a call sometimes if you're out there in Wisconsin, because we have quite a bit of cheese that we move all year round.
So now you may have noticed a few of those lanes may have seemed to be a little bit lower than you would normally think a lane like that would cost. Now, I intentionally put those lanes in there because what I want you to understand and what I want to emphasize in this particular video is that it's not always about having big numbers. Sometimes we think just because we have a big number, that means that we can make a big profit. And that's not the case. It's about how you have freight position, how you have assets position. That determines what you make as a profit.
So this is why I think this guy's a good broker, because he understands, and a lot of these brokers understand, that you're not going to be able to make a killing. They shouldn't even be making a killing, period. We should be getting most of the money, and they should be fighting more for us on those lower, so-called lower rate lanes. But anyway, that's another story. Just keep in mind that the shippers, as you can see in this video, the shippers control the rates to a large degree. A lot of times they'll throw some lanes out there to several brokers, and whoever bids it for less will take it. So whoever is the least greediest will take less profit. Usually they'll get the work. But it's just an eye-opening experience listening to this. Let's go.
Because at the end of the day, it's about you pricing freight so that the brokerage can make money. Now, am I concerned about carriers? Sure I am. Carriers are part of my team. But I also let carriers take care of carriers. Carriers have to look at freight, look at those rates, and determine, does this work or does it not work? Simple as that. Because at the end of the day, I, as a freight broker, cannot stay in business if I'm not taking profitable freight to my carriers. So now, in conclusion, what I want you to know as freight brokers, whatever amount of carriers you're working with, whether that's hundreds or that's thousands of carriers, those carriers have decided to work with you for a reason. And a part of that reason is because they don't want to go and get their own freight. They realize that it's a challenge to get freight. So they've made you responsible for that. So because you're responsible for going to get freight, you are responsible for pricing. If a carrier wants to go and get his own freight, he decides pricing. Do I want to satisfy my carriers? I most certainly want to satisfy my carriers. They are very important members of my team. But I'm a realist. I realize, and I want you to realize, that you're not going to satisfy a carrier on every single load. That's just the business we've chosen. So now that's what I wanted to share with you today. I certainly hope this information has been helpful. If you want to learn more about the freight broker business, I'll leave a link in the description. It's my free 5-video series titled How the Load Movement Process Works. It'll give you a look into the freight broker business, let you see me in my office, moving loads, talking to shippers, talking to carriers. That way you can get a really good picture of how it works before you come into the business. And then I'm going to leave you a free video titled How We Find Shippers, because that's one of the things that's going to be really important to you when you first get started in your business, is how to get to those shippers that we just showed you gave us those wonderful rates. So until the next time, I wish you the very best in your life and business. And always remember that at the top of the mountain, there are only a small amount of people. And at the bottom of the mountain, looking upward, everybody is down there. So let's get out of the crowd and get to the top. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.
Well, I hope you guys learned something from this video. I know I did. We see a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes. One thing I want to take away from the video is that he said something. He said that carriers are part of his team. But guess what? We're a main part of his team. Without us, there are no brokers. So we need each other. Let's face it. Brokers A lot of carriers think that brokers don't do anything. All they do is the middleman. But guess what? If a load is rejected, the brokers have to figure out what to do with that freight. And more often than not, they got to pay for it out of pocket. Now, they may get reimbursed for some of that, but they're responsible for that load. And if something goes wrong, they have to deal with it. So I respect brokers. They just need to fight harder for us carriers on the shipping end and not accept the rates, because at the end of the day, the shippers control the rates. Well, you guys have a good one. Please like and subscribe because it really helps me grow my channel. I really would appreciate it. And I'm gonna see you guys on the next video. Take care.